Alright, hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to go from, I'm going to show you how to go from like a flat drawing of say like a landscape or even like a decorative sort of bird idea, which is how I started this one, and create a layered effective drawing, okay? So I'll start with the more complex one first. Even though it looks pretty simple, it took a while to do. There are several different layers going on here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I just did this with spiral bound notebook paper, and you will need to have some sort of cardboard underneath what your cutting surface. Okay, so if we look at the way this is done, you're going to start at the back and then you're going to work your way up. So I'm going to just do a few layers to show you how it was done. So I'll kind of just show you. So the first layer is literally, what I've done here is I've done my drawing, I've numbered it, but I don't know if it's really that important. It is helpful for me to number them to know that this is the top layer, that's the second layer underneath that, and the number 7 is my last bottom layer. And then what I did here was I colored the back of my drawing with pencil. If you have an ebony pencil, that works even better, or like a Prismacolor really dark pencil, but you don't want charcoal because it'll just get everything all smeary. Just regular graphite is the best. And then when I did this in the corner page, okay? So the first step I did was to cut out for layer 7. And so all I did here was literally trace the outer line here, and I made a decision to go all the way through for layer 7 because my trees are going to cover that up anyway. So all I'm going to cut out is that area right there. I'm going to make sure that that's in good viewing. Yep, that's pretty good. Okay. And so when you're cutting, really important to have a sharp blade, make sure it's tight, make sure that you have a piece of cardboard underneath what you were cutting. Especially important when you're building up your layers. And all I'm going to do here is cut No, in fact, I am doing that wrong. So what I want to do is I want to leave that one. I want to leave that one because I don't want to see that one. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and color that in. And obviously, if you were to do this on like a book or something nicer, you would use a nice coloring technique. But then what I would do, leave that and leave it all one piece. And then what I'm going to do here is cut that piece out now. Okay, so this does take some different kinds of thinking. You know what, I'll bring this back up. This will make it more accurate. There, and then I can just go right over top of that, and I can lightly see that line. Make sure that my cutting mat is here, and I'm going to cut out that. And so what I've basically done is I've cut a window out. I'm glad I made that mistake for you right away so you can see, because I want this to actually open up to that. Now the next one I want to cut out, and I'm going to go to the next page for the next one. And I'm going to basically cut out the shape of the sun. And I'm just going to trace that. But for this, I need to actually cut out this whole shape. And at this point, it's also good for you to start to color as you go. So if this is going to be orange, I'm going to go ahead and just do this so that I know I don't want that to be cut out. I want that to show. And so then I'm going to put my cutting mat here. I want to cut this out here. And that, yep, okay. All right, so now I've got the sun in the background. So the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to flip the next page, and I want to cut out, I want to keep cutting out everything I've actually created so far. So what I want to do next is I want to go for this level 5 color. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go to the corner here, and then I'm going to come up here through the tree, and then also through the tree over here. And you'll see in just a moment why. Because then what I'm doing is I'm cutting out this entire shape. So this way of thinking does require you to very, very carefully consider what it is that you are trying to portray. And it is an interesting challenge, to say the least. I would also suggest cutting through lots more layers than just one layer at a time here. So this will now expose that area, which I would then find that bright green color. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing where I'm going to leave this here because I'm going to cut the next layer out to expose this one, number 4. Okay, so I'm going to put this here. I'm cutting for number 4 now. So what I'm doing here is tracing this whole shape down to 4. Where's 4? Okay. I am going to not worry about anything that can, like these will sit on top later. So I'm not worried about my topmost layers because they're going to hide that coming through. Okay, so I'm going to cut that out. Alright, and then I'm going to find that green color. I'm not sure what I did with that green color, so I'll just I'll just use a different green, that's okay. Go light with this one. Now this is kind of fun if you have a really, really plain book and you don't have any images that you can, you know, really expose, but you can create your own sort of story, if you will. Okay, next up I'm going to do for level 3. All right, so once again, I want to flip this over, put this underneath, line this up, and I'm cutting everything out. I'm basically cutting all of this out. Like I said, this takes some time, so definitely have a good drawing, but also be willing to make some mistakes as you go and start fresh if you need to again. And that's exposing the next layer of green. Like I said, coloring is an art in and of itself. So if you choose to do this technique for coloring your book, you should definitely practice and get a good approach going for yourself. Okay, and now that's there. So then I can just leave that there as my foreground. I can go ahead and just put a color in here. Okay, now I'm going to do the trees and then the house. Okay, so with the trees, I'm going to cut everything out but the trees. Okay, so I'm going to outline the trees. I'm just going to cut the trees. I'm going to cut out, I'm leaving the trees. So I'm cutting out all the other stuff. Let me just darken that in. Make sure you put that there. Also, I should have done this before. I'm going to do a really, really dark green color. I can always cut that little mound again. Show you how to do that later if you don't like the way that looks. We'll see. Okay. Make sure that that's still holding on to something. Otherwise, this whole thing is just going to pop out. And you'll just learn by doing. Okay. Now I still have my little house that I want to do. A new piece. I can actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to extend this over so that it has more to hug onto. Because when I did this before, it didn't work. It needs, we need stuff, it needs to be held in place in the way that it needs to connect back to this. You'll see. Make sure that's all there. Yep. Okay, so what I want to cut out, I also have to cut the top of this out. So I'm not cutting the house. I am cutting the space around the house. Where's that little... If I cut the 2 layers of this, then I could easily, that's what I did here. I cut 2 layers. I cut 2 layers here. I'll show you how I did that to get the windows cut out. Which was a nice, easy trick. So you can cut, and you should cut multiple pages at once, but for this skill builder, not necessary. But when you have a book, you're going to want to cut like 10 to, 10 or more pages sometimes, the same shape, in order to create that real, like, strong illusion of depth. It's not that bad once you figure out how to do it, but it does take some time. Okay, so pretty much it's all there. If I were to cut another, if I had cut another layer out, I could have then cut out the window shapes, which is kind of nice. Okay. And yeah, and I definitely want, no, you know what? This needs to go underneath this. So I did actually cut mine so that when I did this, I cut it another last piece. The final piece was that top mound, which could be a different color. All right, so that's how you do like a layered stacking approach using a sketch and your knife and lots of layers.